I mean, at this point, everything that we say and do is fair game for the podcast. Just fair warning.
Okay.
That's how I like to live my whole life. Everything I do or say is fair game for the podcast. The great podcast of life.
That's kind of true.
That is kind of true. All right. I didn't really put a whole awful lot of thought into this. It was really, I'm doing this mostly because at some point in time in probably January, I got a tweet from somebody on the Enthusiasts account that said, "Hey, are you guys going to do any more podcasts or what?" And I looked, and it had been a long time. And so in sort of a half panic, I said, well, I don't know about the other guys, but there will definitely be a new Hero Talk in February. And it is...
And then here we are.
Yeah, it's now February 26th, so I have to do it, otherwise I'm a liar, right? So here we are.
Pretty much. Well, lucky for you, BSing is one of my top subjects. As a millennial, I'm very, very good at it.
That's good, because I'm calling on you to BS. And I guess I should probably do like an official intro for this, right? Because this is a real podcast. This wasn't just a last minute thrown together slapdash.
Depends on what you mean by last minute, but I mean, this has been prepared for several hours. So.
A few hours, yeah. That's something.
Yeah, it's definitely not last minute, if you be literal about it.
All right, there we go. I'm going to go with that. Hey there, enthusiasts. Welcome back to the Real Hero Talk podcast. I am your host, Judge Greg. Joining me today, I have Chris and Natalie. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Oh, thanks, Chris. Thanks for bringing your A game.
I never know what to say to that, like the welcome aboard thing.
Yeah, I don't
say Heidi ho.
Heidi ho.
Heidi ho.
I don't do well in social situations, and I think podcasts sort of qualify.
It's kind of social, yeah. So the topic of today's episode is there's no topic. It's nothing. We're just going to talk about whatever's been going on around us. Whose line
is it anyway? The points don't matter?
Well, I mean, the points matter. They're just still made up.
Fair enough.
So... I guess this is the part in traditional standard podcasts where I ask, what have you been playing and watching? So,
Ooh.
hey, Natalie, what have you been playing and or watching?
So, most recent game I played was Mass Effect 3, although I lost a 8-hour game time, like, save file. Like, one of those days where you just dedicate to a game.
Oh, no.
I lost the save file because of Origin. It messed up with the cloud, so I won't touch Mass Effect 3 anymore. I don't want it. I just don't. I'm like, I don't know. But instead, I went through and I played the BioShock Infinite DLC, Lost at Sea or Burial at Sea, and I loved it. It was really good.
Oh, that was the one in Rapture, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was good DLC. That was good DLC.
I like to see Rapture in its glory day,
mm-hmm.
and also it's Booker and and I just loved them. I really do. So that was cool. That was pretty cool. We've been watching BoJack Horseman, Chris and I. That is what we do every night. We just come home, watch a BoJack. We have one last episode in the whole series, which we should be watching tonight, but we're doing the podcast.
Yeah,
so
sorry
maybe
about
after.
that. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Now, is the series over?
No.
Okay.
It's just season 6 is coming out.
Oh, are they?
Year.
Oh, so they're on season 5 right now?
Yep.
But yeah.
Okay, so I am like 2 full seasons behind on that.
Ooh, do you watch BoJack?
Of course, I watch BoJack Horseman.
Oh, I love BoJack.
No,
I do.
I very much like the BoJack Horseman. I saw the first 3 seasons, and of course, the Christmas special was hilarious.
We haven't watched the Christmas special.
Oh, you haven't seen the Christmas special?
No.
Oh, you have to see the Christmas special.
Well, then I guess we have 2 more episodes.
You have 2 more episodes left because the Christmas special is really funny. But yeah, I like the show and it was funny. It's just that season 4 came out just sort of at I think the wrong time when I just did not have a lot of free time to watch stuff. Or more importantly, when I didn't want to watch anything new. I watch old stuff all day long, like when I can only give it maybe a half to a quarter attention. And I could do other things. So I have rewatched Parks and Recreation probably a dozen times, and I'm currently also a great show. I'm currently in the middle of a rewatch of Spartacus.
Oh,
is that
like old Spartacus or like the new Spartacus?
The Showtime one from about 8 years ago. Yeah.
Yes.
So this
you meant
is sad.
Like I am Spartacus.
Well, they do say that in the show, but not the old Kirk Douglas movie. But
yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I was the one with Andy Whitfield and Andy Whitfield, who then got this is sad. Now I'm going to be all depressed. So Andy Whitfield was the star of Spartacus, and then after the first season, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Ooh,
Yeah,
rough.
and it was so. There's a on Netflix. There is a documentary about his ordeal with the lymphoma called "Be Here Now," and he had probably one of the roughest, nastiest forms of lymphoma that I've certainly ever heard about. And it went into remission, and then it came back, and it came back super, super aggressive, and he ended up passing away.
Ooh.
So he couldn't continue on the part. They tried to sort of delay needing him while he got treatment the first time. So they did like a prequel series. So it was a half season, but it was a prequel, so he wouldn't need to be in it, and it was all the other characters. But then when he was doing like a pre-physical to start the next season of Spartacus, he would be on. That's when they found it was back, and at that point they said, well, at this point the best thing for him and for everyone is to sort of part ways, and they recast him. And it didn't take long. It was so aggressive. I think it was about 6 months after he was re-diagnosed that it took its toll on him.
Jesus.
That's depressing.
Yeah, way to open a podcast.
Yeah,
right?
so that's a happy note. But I did watch I watched Be Here Now, and then it sort of inspired me to go back and watch Spartacus, and it's very interesting because they have to switch lead actors in the middle of the series. You see the character, I think it was Liam McIntyre. I think that's who they got to replace him. I'll look it up real quick while I'm talking. But he's trying to basically play a character as his own, but at the same time he needs to have some continuity with how he was portrayed previously. And it's an awful story, and especially with the in the Be Here Now documentary, and they are right there with the Whitfields as he's dealing through it. Liam McIntyre, I just confirmed, and it was Starz, not Showtime, so I got that wrong too. So I'm just wrong. I'm wrong all over the place. But it was like you're in their house, and they have this documentary crew with them, and you're seeing him with interacting with his kids. And the problem is, I know how this ends. I'm aware of the story. This happened 8 years ago. I know every little chunk of good news they get, I know is not going to be permanent.
Going to be the good news.
Yeah, and then you're there with him, like especially at the end. Every phone call he gets from the doctors, and you just hear, well, it's all bad news, and you're just watching the family just react to it, and it is gut-wrenching.
Jesus. Oh my God. I gotta watch that now. That seems like right up my sad alley.
Documentaries are fun.
Yeah, it was. I watched it late at night, which was also a problem because now everyone's asleep, and I'm just alone. I'm on my computer, not even watching it on the TV. I'm watching it on my computer screen. If that makes it sadder somehow, and I'm just losing my composure as I'm just sort of watching, the man's life, and it's one of those shows where I actually was watching it as it was coming on live. I think Netflix had some special deal with Starz, so new episodes would go on Netflix as soon as Starz would put them out.
Ah, okay.
So it was like every Wednesday or every Thursday I would go watch the new episode.
So then you were already attached to this actor.
Yeah, so I was already attached to him, and then I knew the story, and I had put off watching this documentary for a while because I knew it wasn't gonna work well for me. He had a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and it was just gonna be. Oh,
hey, it's gonna hit you right at home.
Yeah, so it's gonna hit a little too close to home, and I finally just said, I think I somehow, even though I've never met the man in my life, I owe it to him to at least watch through this and to sort of live this part of his life with him. And it was gut-wrenching.
I gotta watch that now. I have to.
You know what else you have to watch is Dear Zachary, because you didn't watch that.
Oh, no, I don't really want to.
What's Dear Zachary? I've never heard of this.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's also a documentary that I believe is still on Netflix. It's called Dear Zachary, A Letter to a Son from His Father. I think that's what it's called. In full, it's a long title. It's a documentary that's directed to the son of this guy who was murdered. And I don't want to say any more than that because there's a pretty
plot twist.
Shocking twist about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through. But
you would like it.
It was told to me that I would definitely cry when I watched it. I didn't cry, but I was filled with a rage like I'd never felt before.
Wow.
My reaction was not one of sadness, but like complete like.
Chris, you just don't cry either. So
Well, I don't really
I've seen you cry a handful of times.
I can get crying at the movie because it is sad, but I don't get why like sadness is the prevailing emotion that people have when they watch it, because to me it's something else entirely. Also, I've been watching Making a Murder, other documentary on Netflix. I finished season 2 this past week.
Did I hear that guy was finally getting a retrial?
So what happened yesterday, actually, the Court of Appeals, I don't know which court it was specifically, but the Court of Appeals ruled that the current attorney, Kathleen Zellner, could have these bones tested for DNA. So one of the pieces of evidence that didn't really get explored at trial is there were some bones, burnt bones, found on a quarry that was located next to the guy, Stephen Avery's property.
Okay.
And the defense asserted that they were human bones. The prosecution asserted that they were possibly human bones, which made a difference because the prosecution essentially said you can't use these to create doubt because they're only possibly human. No expert will testify that they're human. So now the ruling is they can get those bones tested to determine if they are human and if they belong to the girl that was murdered. And one of the major missteps that led to this ruling is that the bones themselves were actually delivered back to the family of the girl who was murdered, which is illegal in Wisconsin without notifying Stephen Avery's attorneys first. So the state is supposed to keep that evidence until he's released from prison, which in his case would be when he dies because he's serving life without parole.
Right.
And they were turned over to the family of the victim. So that was kind of that was some misconduct on the state's part. So I guess, that will seriously undermine the prosecution's case if it turns out that they are bones that belong to this girl, because they would have been then a couple miles away from his property where she was allegedly killed and burned. It's crazy. There's a lot, like there's too many points of interest to really give a TLDR, but I definitely would recommend it. It makes you think about the justice system and, the death penalty and all kinds of stuff.
Interesting. Okay. I've definitely heard people talking about it, obviously, but it wasn't something that ever made it to my radar. That's very interesting. So, Chris, we kind of randomly skipped over you because I decided to start talking about non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but...
I mean, we meandered through,
Yeah.
We took a journey.
Yeah. So what have you been playing? What are you up to?
Right now I'm playing Shadowrun Returns, because I am on a sort of an old school RPG kick. I was playing Knights of the Old Republic back in January. I finished both of those. I got all the Steam achievements for Knights of the Old Republic 2, games I've played many, many times already. So I started combing through my library to try to find something similar, and I just kind of fell on Shadowrun, and it turns out that it's scratching the itch that I had very well. Plays a lot like a tabletop game, and it's got the whole turn-based combat, and you have like 6 stats. You get your like strength, constitution, intelligence, charisma, all those things. I like it. I would recommend it to any RPG fans who haven't played it, which is probably at this point just me. I think everybody else has played it.
I have not played it. I'm vaguely aware of it, and I'm trying to picture it in my head. Is it like sort of an isometric?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is Shadowrun actually a tabletop game system? It must be. Or either that or it's an old RPG, because it's some kind of a reboot of something. That's why it's called Shadowrun Returns, but I don't really know the history or if it's what it's based on.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
There's 3 games in the modern series. There's also Shadowrun Hong Kong and Shadowrun, I think, Dragonfall. I don't have either of those 2 yet. So I guess what's next logically is I probably am going to have to check out the original Fallout, because it seems like that's a similar type of game, and I've never played it before.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Yeah, I am surprised you haven't.
I've never been a big Fallout fan. I only started playing Fallout with Fallout 4.
Oh, so you haven't played Fallout 3?
I did a little bit. I did not like it.
No kidding.
You played New Vegas, right?
I didn't like New Vegas either.
Yeah. My issues with New Vegas was it just felt very empty as compared to Fallout 3. But Fallout 3 was one of my favorite games, and I'm saying this about a game where I literally had a timer set to go off every 10 minutes to autosave because it crashed so often. But and that's
funny.
Absolutely true. I did that, but wow, I still really enjoyed the game. It's sad because I'm pretty sure that when I bought Fallout 4, I got a free digital copy of Fallout 3, which is backwards compatible on Xbox One, and I haven't gone back to play it, which I fully intended to, and then I just decided that my hobby is buying games, and that actually playing games is a completely different hobby, of which I don't subscribe to.
That is That is a
That
common
is too
gamer
true.
affliction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, though, I probably should go back and check out Fallout 3 because the reason I ended up not liking Fallout 3 is I tried to play it too much like a traditional shooter game. So I dumped, like, I don't know where I put my stat points when I first played it, but I was getting really frustrated that my chance to hit and my damage and stuff was based on like RNG, and I hadn't put the right stat points, so I wasn't hitting anything. And then when I tried to play it like a traditional first-person shooter, my weapons didn't do any damage because I wasn't using that.
Yeah. I definitely remember you sort of have to almost go into it with an RPG mindset.
Right.
And it's one of those, which I love when games do this. It's like, we're going to give you the RPG stats, but you still have to do the work.
And I hadn't really played many RPGs like that before, so it was a new thing, and it didn't sit well with me. Now, I don't know. I might still not like it because I have tried Fallout New Vegas a lot more recently, but I can't put a finger on why I didn't like Fallout New Vegas. It just didn't, what's the word? It didn't resonate right off the bat.
Well, I mean, some games just won't.
Right, and that it didn't do it for me. Shadowrun is doing very well. Like, I started playing that, and it just sucked me right in.
And that's what you want. And quite frankly, and I get frustrated when people describe games to me, and you love this game, and I'll play it, and I'll be like, okay, I'm about maybe 30, 40 minutes in, I'm just not feeling it. And I'll say, no, just wait it out. It'll get better after the first few hours.
Games. If I don't like it in the first, like, couple minutes, you're done. I'm also the same way with books. If a book doesn't, like, strike me, take my interest, like, get out of here. You're not worth my time.
I mean, do you know how many
New York Minute.
hundreds of games there are out there that I would love to play, I'll never get a chance to, but you want me to slog through a game that takes a good 5 or 6 hours to get going? Like, 5 or 6 hours, I could probably play 2 or 3 games from my backlog.
Yeah, exactly. I'm done.
The thing is, like, there are some games that I have had to slog through a little bit, and then they get really good. And I'm always afraid of missing out on something. But most games aren't like that. Most games, if I don't like it within an hour or two, then I'm just not going to play it ever again.
I'll give the game probably 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it's sort of my rule of thumb is you have as long as a movie would take to get my interest.
That seems like a good rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
I'll
very
sometimes
true.
I'll sometimes put 10 hours into a game before I give up on it. Like, I played a fair amount of Alpha Protocol before I was like, no, I can't do this anymore.
Oh, wow.
It's probably about 8 hours. And I don't know, Alpha Protocol, there wasn't anything that I necessarily didn't like. It just didn't stand out in any way. I felt like it was just a very mediocre kind of game.
Yeah, I played a fair bit of Alpha Protocol, not nearly as much as you did, but yeah, I walked away basically the same way. This was average. It felt like maybe like Metal Gear Solid, but not as crazy and also not as good.
It was a lot like the comparisons to Mass Effect are all over the place, and it was like Mass Effect if Mass Effect didn't have a super interesting story to pull you in, and that was kind of the problem.
Yeah,
it was like a mediocre RPG shooter kind of thing, but there was no underpinning narrative to make it really worth investing time into.
Yeah, and that seems about spot on with my impression of it. Although I don't know why I really got a serious Metal Gear Solid vibe from it. Maybe it's just the corridors. I don't know.
It could be. I've never played Metal Gear Solid, honestly.
And at this point, it's just too late. You might as well just never.
Yeah, I missed the PS1 era on that.
And you're never going to appreciate the graphics of the PS1 era games, so you might as well just say, "Oh right, I missed the bus. Oh well."
You know, the PS1 era was kind of bad in retrospect.
Oh my god, it was awful.
If you look back at those early 3D, it's like they were figuring out how to make 3D games, and they were doing it all wrong.
You know what's funny is
so many games, they were so fun at the time, and you just try to play them now, and they're just horrible. And
I remember. Oh my god, you go.
But it's not true of PS2 games. You can still play PS2 games, and they're pretty good.
Absolutely.
You can play God of War, and it's like that game is from 2005, and it's still good.
That game still holds up. I am extremely surprised how well that game holds up.
You try to play MDK or Fighting Force or like the old Tomb Raiders. It's like, man.
Yeah.
I can still play the old Tomb Raiders because I like them. They're such an integral part of my childhood that I can look past how clunky and terrible they are. But
well, I mean, look at the PlayStation 1 Classic, and I don't even remember if that's what it was called, but that's what I'm calling it. And that thing did not sell very well at all because, as it turns out, there isn't nearly as much nostalgia for PS1 era games. And also because the performance was less than stellar too, so they couldn't even in their retro console they didn't do a good job. So
I remember my dad was so enthralled at 3D video games. He'd be like, "Oh my god, look at this! I can really see their faces." And you go back now, and it's like scrunch. Like, I remember he was so impressed. Like, he was like, "Look at this."
Super Mario 64 blew my mind when I saw it the first time.
Yeah. No, same with my dad. He's like, "Look at this." If he could see Mass Effect now, like, you know, like,
Oh
if he could play any of the games now, he would die. He would just fall over dead.
So now I play games, and now I've this is where we are in terms of graphics. I can now get upset if they fall into the uncanny valley. And we're like,
Yes.
oh, no,
Yes.
oh, they're in the uncanny valley. That was terrible. Whereas, you know, Mario's running around with his hat is supposed to be rounded, but it's, you know, N64 era, so it's really like a stop sign on the back of his head running around. and I think that's the greatest thing ever. And now I'm so upset if it's not photorealistic. I can't see their pores. Why can't I see their pores?
They're too shiny. Their pupils are too small.
What a wonderful era of games that we live in.
Yeah, it's only going to get better from here.
Just imagine what they're going to do with VR. I feel like right now VR is at the PS1 stage where like VR is really bad, and it's so cool because we never had anything like that before. But when they get proper VR, and I'm talking like the level of like Ready Player One level of VR, where you can just go into a virtual world and be fully immersed, we're going to look back at today's VR and it's going to be like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's going to be terrible and clunky and choppy.
It'll be in our lifetime, that's for sure.
Disorienting. Oh yeah, they'll get that figured out pretty soon, within probably a couple console generations.
I will say that it needs to be like Ready Player One level for me to get into it because I have no desire to jump into VR right now. And a lot of it was because, you know, when I was in the Navy, I ran a VR trainer, and that was, of course, you know, 1990s era VR technology. So that was rough. But
it was a virtual boy.
Oh no!
Yeah, but it was the notional things that I had issues with weren't necessarily the limitations of the technology, but things that could break immersion. Where if I'm really there, and let's say I want to look at my watch, I can't because I'm not really there. I don't have hands. I can't look at my watch. So all these different mechanics that you have in the game that are supposed to be immersive, they aren't because I still need to go through the controller to figure out what's going on. And that's sort of the level of immersion that you have to try to get me past to get me into this VR world. It's not so much I don't want the thing on my face. It's just the disconnect from the rest of my body at this point through the controller is not really enough to keep me engaged in the game. I find it less immersive that way. Yeah,
I get very sick from it too. Just for that thing, when I go to like look at my own body, it's not there. Makes me dizzy. I can't enjoy the game.
I have watched sailors pass out from looking down and not seeing their own legs, and their brain just doesn't know how to process that.
Wow.
Oh yeah, they'll look down because in this trainer there's no actual avatar. You're just a floating camera point.
I played a VR like that, yeah, so I know what you're talking about.
So you look down and you don't see a body there.
Yeah.
And then
nothing.
Like the brain doesn't know what to do with it, and the ones that have a little bit more wherewithal and situational awareness will take the helmet off. The ones who don't pass out.
Oh my god! So I guess that's like a good way to weed through the crappy soldiers.
Yeah, I mean,
just put them in a VR. If they
not really a
out,
practical combat scenario for. Imagine you become disembodied, and you need to now navigate the battlefield. Look down.
My friend.
I remember. Oh yeah, your friend did make that. It was the rock climbing one, right?
Don't Look Down, and it's going to be on Steam. I have no idea when, but look out for it. Don't Look Down or Don't Fall Down.
Didn't they get it into some arcade or something?
Yeah, they have it at the mall, the local mall. They started like selling it out, and then they would do like play tests, and I did a play test, and it terrifies me. It's a climbing game, so if you misstep, you will fall. And for some reason, I love my friends. I love the game. I will never play it because it terrifies me. Because I actually get like what's the word? Like height, like
vertigo
height.
or
no,
like
I don't know.
What
I
is
just get
fear?
afraid.
Acrophobia, I think.
Yes, I get actually afraid. I'm like, oh my god, I'm so high up, and I'm like, no, Nat, you're not. But it's...
Dude, I feel that from playing first-person games sometimes. Like,
really,
you jump off of a high height in just like a first-person video game. I can feel it like kind of in my gut. It makes me a little bit like anxious just to see.
Oh, yeah. I definitely felt a little bit of that in Mirror's Edge. First time I played it.
I've never played that, and I don't know what it is.
It was this first-person
Parkour
game.
Yeah.
Wait, parkour?
Yeah.
Yep. Extreme parkour.
Hardcore. It was the early 2000s. It was a different time.
Okay.
No, I thought that game was actually pretty well done, although you can definitely tell where it had to get cut down and pared down, and the story just kind of didn't go anywhere. Like, they finished the game, and I thought to myself, I didn't actually get a resolution. I don't know what's happened here. They really just... It was a long tech demo, I guess is the best way to describe it. I still liked it, though. It was fun. Is there any movies coming out that we should care about?
Oh, dude. I haven't seen a movie in theaters since 5 ever. If you want to talk about past movies, I really want to see Incredibles 2.
That's on Netflix now.
It is on Netflix. It's on my watch list on Netflix now.
Yeah.
But movies coming out.
I mean, not for a few months that I know of. I'm not a movie person at all. So for me, it's basically like Avengers Endgame. So that's May, I think.
Yeah, but I got to see Captain Marvel because that's going to lead into Avengers Endgame. So
yeah, it's crappy of them because no one gives a crap about Captain Marvel. And no, it's not because she's a girl. It looks stupid. It just looks stupid, but you have to watch it to be consistent in the MCU, and they got us by the balls with that. How dare they?
Yeah.
So the thing about that is, it's one of the movies in the MCU that I just don't care about.
I couldn't care less about her.
Now, Ant-Man
I've
was
never
one of those
seen her.
Ant-Man was really good.
Yeah.
That's true.
I just don't get the
You've
impression
seen
that
Ant-Man
Captain Marvel is
before.
going to be that good.
Yeah,
No.
but
And I could be wrong.
maybe
She hasn't been in it for the past 10 years. Why are you going to make me care about her now?
Well, they have to introduce new characters somehow. They can't keep going back to the same well. They really need to start looking into getting new characters movies, and this is a character who is fairly prominent in the comic books right now. There are some people out there who would posit that Carol Danvers hasn't done anything of note in comic books ever since.
No, she was Scott Pilgrim.
Wait, what?
She was in Scott Pilgrim.
Who was in Scott Pilgrim? Carol Danvers?
I don't know who that is.
Carol
Isn't that the
Danvers
lead
is
actress?
Captain Marvel's real name. Or not real name in the comic books.
Oh, I thought you meant like the
That's
actress.
her alter ego. Yeah, I don't know anything about... I
I
don't
know
really
that the
know
actress
much
is
about the comics.
Yeah.
in Scott Pilgrim, which is a comic book.
It was.
Wait,
It
oh,
was.
you're talking about Brie Larson.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was Scott's big ex. What was her name?
Natalie.
Envy Adams.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Now I get the Scott.
No, so I was talking about Carol Danvers, the character. So I say that, and I'm going to explain why I do that, is because there's another movie coming out soon, Shazam, and so...
You mean Captain Marvel?
Yeah, and Shazam is really Captain Marvel. And
DC Captain Marvel.
But DC can't call him Captain Marvel because Fawcett Comics lost the rights to the name before DC acquired the character, or something like that.
Oh, right. They have 2 Captain Marvels. That's not confusing at all.
So about 7 years ago, DC just decided to call it quits and say, all right, fine, whatever, we're going to call him Shazam now. Everyone already calls him Shazam. We're tired of correcting everybody all the time. We're just going to call him Shazam too. Which I took a lot of personal offense to because I have spent 3 decades correcting people who call that character Shazam. So you can't make me for 30 years say that's not Shazam, that's Captain Marvel. Shazam is the wizard that gives Captain Marvel his powers.
I picture you as that meme of the guy going, actually, and pushing up his glasses. Actually, it's Captain Marvel. It's not Shazam.
I like to see it as, so there was a movie that came out about 2003, 2004 called Comic Book the Movie, and it's a funny fake documentary starring Mark Hamill about like this pretend comic book character that they were making into a movie, and so they hire like the #1 fan club guy from like the original character, and they were trying to do like a gritty reboot, and he wanted them to do a classic. And they had a ton of cameos from voice actors, and Tom Kenny, who's the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh yeah, I love Tom Kenny. He's in everything.
Yeah, so he was in the movie, and he played Mark Hamill's character's Don Swan's best friend, and his son and his real life wife were in the movie. And so they actually, what they did is they recreated a real thing that happened with his son, with his little boy where they gave him a doll and they said, hey, it's Shazam. And the kid, spot on, because they knew he would do it when they said it, corrects him and he says, that's not Shazam. That's Captain Marvel. So they ask, well, who's Shazam? He goes, Shazam's the wizard that gives Captain Marvel his powers. So in my head, that's what I envision every time I have the conversation, is like I'm just re-embodying Tom Kenny's son. And I'm channeling that little kid who was 6 at the time, I think, and just putting it out there and just letting him know. And then they go to open it and the kid stops him. And apparently, according to the commentary on the tape, this is a real life thing that happened with Tom Kenny's son. The kid stopped him and said, no, it's collectible.
Oh.
And Tom Kenny said that that actually happened one year at Christmas. He wouldn't open any of his toys because they were collectibles.
Oh, that's really cute. He raised a nerd.
Yeah.
Good job.
So
there's more of us out there.
There's a new generation coming thanks to SpongeBob SquarePants.
There's gotta that kid is probably my age. Let's be real.
Well,
He's gotta be.
He was about.
What year did that come out?
I think it came out in 2004. They filmed on location in the 2003 Comic-Con. The kid was probably 6. So
yeah,
add 6 years to that.
Kid's my age.
No, that kid is like 12.
He's not 12 now.
Well, it's
about 18.
How many? Wait, no, really?
I was in 2003.
So 2003.
I was going into the
so
third
that is
grade.
16 years. Oh no! Oh no!
Yeah, he's probably.
It's 2019. That kid is 21.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
He's one of us.
Oh man, that is.
Yeah, correct.
That is not something I wanted to realize right here on the podcast during a live recording. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm just going to address my own mortality right now.
Yeah, just going to wonder where your youth went. Your precious
Wow.
youth gone, slipped down the drain.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyway, it is a fun movie, and I think it might be on Netflix.
I'd like to watch it now.
Although, if I remember correctly, and this is going to bother me a lot if I ever try to rewatch it, is somehow the Netflix version, the one that got to Netflix, wasn't a completed version, so like a lot of the graphics weren't done. What I mean by graphics is like the title card doesn't show up. It goes to a blue sky pattern, and you hear the theme music, and like the comic book, the movie is supposed to show up on the screen, but it doesn't. It's really peculiar. It's like they sent them an early copy or an unfinished copy. It was really weird.
Like first draft or second to last draft or something like that.
Like before the editors were finished putting in all the effects, they sent them that copy. So I think the rest of the movie is intact, but like anytime there was a subtitle or a caption, it's not going to show up.
Wasn't there? Interesting.
Yeah. Still, it's a fun movie, and it's mostly cast by voice actors. And there's some fun cameos. Stan Lee makes a quick cameo in it, and Bruce Campbell and Hugh Hefner, of all people.
You know what I really like to watch? It's this podcast called Talkin' Tunes, and it's just primarily like voice actors talking to other voice actors. It's hosted by Rob Paulson, I want to say, or Rob. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know Rob Paulson. I'm trying to think if he was in
Carl.
I know exactly who he is. I'm trying to think if he was in Comic Book the movie. He was in the special features in a panel that they did, but I'm trying to think if he was actually a character in the movie.
He's my favorite. I absolutely adore him.
He's also the voice of Toodles on Mickey Mouse Clubhouse.
He's the voice of everything. He was
Raphael.
Yeah, he was Raphael from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was Carl from Jimmy Neutron. He was Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. He was Yakko from Animaniacs. He was...
So Wacko from Animaniacs was Jess Harnell, who played a huge part in Comic Book the movie.
Yeah. And then he was Yakko. And I gotta watch this now. I really do. I've been watching Talkin' Tunes a lot because I really like it.
Oh, so you would love this movie. It's all voice actors. Every character in it, with the exception of possibly I think Donna Derrico, but everyone else was a voice actor.
Chris, I show you those videos all the time.
Yeah, that's the one where they do like scenes from a movie, but with two like random characters, right?
Yes, but characters that they've played. Like, it'll be like The Godfather, but Yakko from Animaniacs, and then whatever guest he has. So let's just say, like, Tom Kenny, and he does it in a SpongeBob voice. Like, it's great. I love it.
Billy West also in the movie.
I love him.
Yep, he played a huge part in the movie.
Does he really?
Yeah, he Leo Matusik is the character's name, and he's like the long lost grandson of the guy who created the original character, and he's a surprise. Like Laurie Allen, huge part in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of very prominent voice actors are featured in the film.
Okay, I need to watch this. Send me the link when we're done with the podcast.
Yep, you got it.
Yes! I found something to do!
And I'd recommend, if you can find it cheap enough, I'd get the DVD because, especially if you're into the voice acting stuff, you'll love the special features.
I am. I can find that on Amazon. That'd be a good. Yeah. That'd be a good idea.
I'm looking it up right now while we record. So, Chris, you need to say something.
Oh, yeet. Yeet, yeet. Oh, Christopher. What was your favorite cartoon when you were a kid?
Oh, geez. That's tough. There were a lot of good cartoons. I grew up I have grown up through some really good eras of animation. I was really into the X-Men and the Spider-Man cartoons from the 90s.
Oh, those were some good cartoons.
We had Pokemon. We had SpongeBob, obviously.
I loved early SpongeBob. Early SpongeBob was best SpongeBob.
Oh, man, that's tough.
You know what's
Dexter's
crazy?
Lab was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I think that might be my favorite cartoon of my childhood.
It says a lot about your personality. But you know what's crazy about SpongeBob is when we watched it on our honeymoon, we're both adults, 401ks, on our honeymoon.
Oh yeah,
and we
did.
watched SpongeBob, and we
put that on the Fire TV.
Yeah, no, but we were able to recite
the
word the entire episode.
Yep.
It was that ingrained in our brains. Yep. Oh my god! To be honest, I can do that with a lot of SpongeBob episodes. If you were to put it on, I'm going to tell you exactly what happens, and also quote them.
It's pretty incredible how easy it is to recall things like that, like words to songs.
It was something that
words to a movie or a TV show.
And at the most formative part of my childhood, when you're really learning, I'm watching SpongeBob. I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Love
so
that.
Emily has just watched SpongeBob for the first time. It was 2 days ago because she's been asking, and I so my wife doesn't really like SpongeBob. She hates SpongeBob. Let's be honest. She
can divorce her. So.
That's not happening. But it's she just was never really wanted Emily to watch it, and so Emily would ask, and I kept saying no, and then she watches this show on Netflix, which is a continuation of the Trolls movie, and it's a little crass, the humor, and so it finally,
really?
It is. So I thought to myself, well, you know what? If she's watching Trolls, she can handle anything on SpongeBob. So I finally, the other day, she asked me, she was on her tablet, which has Amazon Prime Video on it. And so she taps me on the shoulder. She says, Daddy, am I old enough to watch SpongeBob yet? Now, I have no idea how she's heard of the character, right? Because she doesn't, it's not like we watch a lot of Nickelodeon, but she knows who SpongeBob is. And so I finally was like, you know what, honey? You're 5 now. Yes, you're old enough to watch SpongeBob.
I started watching SpongeBob.
So,
that's the age that it came out.
And as soon as I say yes, she just goes, yes! Pumps her fist. And starts that sucker up and starts watching SpongeBob.
Did she like it?
Oh, she loved it, yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah. No,
I mean, at 5 years old, she's the perfect age for it, I think.
Oh, yeah. That was when I first started watching. That was when it came on air. It came on air in 1999 or 2000. I was in kindergarten, first grade at that time. So kindergarten.
You were in kindergarten.
I remember that. Yeah, because every year that I entered school was the year that it was. For example, first grade, 2001, I entered. Second grade, I entered in 2002. That's how I kept track. So yeah, if it was 1999, I was in kindergarten. I was her age.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Weird.
Well, that is weird. But anyway, she's now watching SpongeBob, and she thinks it's funny.
You have to have her watch it in chronological order. You can't have her watch the new SpongeBob, because to be honest, the new SpongeBob is utter trash.
It's weird.
Don't ever let her watch new SpongeBob.
I wouldn't know the difference.
No, you will. You will. I swear to you.
Well, you'd have to watch it and pay attention to know.
Yeah,
the
no. You don't even need to pay attention. What they've done is the character, the drawing style has become very erratic and very spontaneous and impulsive. And it was in the beginning in early SpongeBob, but now it's jarring. And the way that SpongeBob speaks is much higher, much high pitched. I don't know what the hell is going on.
Is it still Tom Kenny?
Yeah, it's still Tom Kenny, but it's through a different filter. It's not true SpongeBob. It's yeah. It's weird. That was pretty bad of it. It's more like, yeah. But like.
That sounded exactly the same.
There's a lot of animations on today that are so jarring and like really like spontaneous, and they do it because they think that that's what's gonna make a kid laugh. But to be honest, they don't need to do that. If they just make the show funny, people will laugh. You don't have to have it slapstick all the time. You don't need to have kids like hyper to like your stuff. If you just make a good show, they're gonna watch it. Like, I don't understand why. You must watch these shows, Greg. Like, you must watch like My Little Pony or like
I have
any
seen
show.
all of My Little Pony.
Yeah,
Wow.
I'm sure that you have. But like a lot of it is just so high pitched, so erratic. Do you know what I'm saying? Am I talking to a
I would
void
say
right now?
of the shows, My Little Pony probably is not a good example because it's probably one of the more toned down versions.
Right, but like if you go on Disney Channel or like Nickelodeon right now, you're gonna get like, huh! Like blown away by just how in your face the show is.
It depends on the show. Peppa Pig is pretty laid back, but
Peppa Pig is British, Greg. You can't compare that. All right.
see, Paw Patrol, I know that one, and I know that one can.
Paw Patrol just wants to make your kids like the government. That's the only reason why it's there.
There's a difference between like kids shows and cartoons. There are shows that are geared towards younger kids, and then there are shows that are just cartoons that are kind of for all ages.
Well, okay, I think we need to go back and revisit that comment, because if anything, I think that Paw Patrol is a tribute to libertarianism. Because when you think about what's actually happening here, whenever something goes wrong in all of Adventure Bay, they basically call upon Ryder, a private citizen, to handle the problem on his own, going from his own, like, huge trust fund that he's used to create these pup rigs.
So it's Batman.
It's not really Batman, but he's...
Yeah.
I mean, the Ryder is
Lone
basically some
citizen.
independently wealthy genius kid who has all this money and uses it to create all of these tools that he has his dogs use, his dogs that are somehow sentient.
Batman doesn't use dogs.
Probably genetic engineering going on there as well. But when you think about it, the actual government of Adventure Bay doesn't do anything. The mayor just calls the Paw Patrol, and a private citizen solves all the issues of the town. If anything, that's telling people, hey, the billionaires are going to save us. So I'm just saying it's more of a libertarian utopia than a totalitarian government situation.
Correct. Oh, wow.
All right, and now it's a political podcast.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we were talking about kids shows. I'm trying to think what other shows. Mickey and the Roadster Racers, that's one. Fancy Nancy has a show on Disney Junior now.
Great.
Did you ever read the Fancy Nancy books?
No, I never did. I think I was a little too... I used to read Junie B. Jones. Oh,
I don't know who that is.
Oh my God!
When
Emily gets to be like 7, go find Junie B. Jones. It's a book. They never made it into a show. It's just a book, and you read it to her. Because I remember that stuff was hilarious. It was some good stuff. You could probably even read it to her now. It's little girl books, but like they're chapter books.
Oh,
and I
okay.
love Junie B. Jones. She was funny.
What was her thing? What made her significant to watch?
Her name was Beatrice, but she didn't like it, so that's why she went by Junie. And B is Beatrice. That's all I remember.
That's not really a glowing recommendation.
No. There was this one time when she hid in the hamper because she was just playing hide and go seek, and her grandpa came into the bathroom and took out his teeth, and she was like, "What?" So she jumped out of the hamper and was like, "Grandpa, you got no teeth!" And then he was like, "Oh!" And then he fell over.
Let's be honest, that's not the worst way that situation could have gone.
I don't really know what to say about this story.
We have completely lost track of any semblance of relevancy in this podcast at this point.
But you've never read The Mouse and the Motorcycle, so that to me is unthinkable.
I don't know. Have you guys read Pete the Cat?
Oh. Yeah, you know what? I used to read Pete the Cat to this little girl that I would babysit for.
Do you know Pete the Cat has a TV show now on Amazon Prime?
My friend Maddie is in the touring Broadway production of Pete the Cat.
There's a touring Broadway production of Pete the Cat?
She plays Olive, or Olivia. Her name's Maddie. I used to work with her at my cafe, and she's literally on Broadway touring around the country in Pete the Cat the Musical.
Hang on, I'm just Googling Pete the Cat the Musical.
Wow.
She's there. Her name's, she plays Olive.
Well, Emily loves shows, so this is, like, right up her.
Oh, you know what? She would love that. If you went and, like, it's, like, in the Capital District and we haven't moved to Texas, you let me know. I'll drive to you because I'd like to see my friend, Maddie. Shout out to Maddie if she ever, she'll never listen to this. But if she does, you're doing
She
a
might.
good
You
job.
never know. Never say never.
But yeah, no, I used to read Pete the Cat to this little girl that I used to babysit for at least like 7 years ago. And I loved it. I thought the art style was cool. I liked he's got his red shoes. Like, I don't know. It was a cute book. And then it became literally everywhere and everything. Like, I think he made a sequel and then a threequel and then he wrote a series, Pete the Cat, and then the TV show. Like, it exploded.
It's a very popular character. We have a couple of Pete books, including the Red Shoes book. I just read that to Emily not that long ago.
That's his first
she
book,
likes the goodness no part. That's her favorite part.
I've never read that one. I've only read
you're missing out on a classic.
Okay. Because that's all that little girl wanted. She was like, Pete the Cat! I'm like, okay.
Nope.
Pete the Cat!
Pete the Cat is a fun story.
Love Pete the Cat.
I also like Pete the Cat in terms of
even
the show, because like sometimes when they make a show and it's just you know what, I'm not getting anything out of this, but like the Pete the Cat show is actually pretty good. There's some good stories there, and in fact, Pete the Cat show is instituted something that we have adopted in our home as a house rule called the 3-bite rule, where if you don't like something, you have to take 3 bites of it before you can.
No thank you bite rule in preschool. You take a bite, and if you like it, you keep eating. If you don't, no thank you. The no thank you bite.
The no thank you. So I was going to do the no thank you bite, but then Pete the Cat was all about the 3-bite rule, and they sang a whole song about it.
That's even better, because then you have to take 3 bites instead of 1.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times where Emily has said no to something, and I say 3-bite rule, and then she takes 3 bites, and then she likes it, and then she gets all excited like she proved something to me, like, the 3-bite rule, now I like it, see, Daddy? I'm like, oh, okay, how did this become my fault suddenly? I wasn't the one who told you to turn your nose at it. I'm the one who said you had to do the 3-bite rule.
I never had that problem. You couldn't get me to stop eating as a kid. That's why I'm so chunky now. Yeah, no, I never had a problem.
How does that explain me being chunky now? Because I used to eat like a bird.
Chris,
I never ate anything.
Like, literally, you have a box of Swiss Miss, like, next to you, or Swiss rolls.
Well,
like, if you were to literally look up, there they are, right next to your desk.
I've been eyeing them this entire time, thinking that I'm going to eat one as soon as we're done. So,
all right, so now,
I guess that's
another funny Emily story now, because you mentioned the Swiss rolls. So I used to buy those for Emily, and I called them ho-hos, because I'm used to hostess ho-hos.
Yeah, it's the same deal.
Right, same deal. They're the exact same thing. But I used to give them to her, and I told them they were ho-hos. And this is when she was, so Ellie was just born, so she would have been just shy of 3 years old. And so since I called them ho-hos, she started calling them Santas, because they're ho-hos, and Santa says ho-ho-ho.
Makes sense.
So she would keep asking, like, Daddy, can I have some Santas?
That's cute. Kid logic.
Yeah.
Kid logic proves that there is, like, a line to their thinking. Ho-ho? Well, it's Santa.
Yeah, because Santa says ho-ho.
Makes perfect sense.
You know what? It really does. It really does.
In their little child lizard brains. Ho-ho, Santa. Makes sense.
Yep. All right. So we actually, for the podcast today, I didn't really expect to get anything, but I put out a few hours ago, I said, hey, I'm going to record a podcast tonight. You can ask questions if you want. That's exactly what I said. And we actually have some questions. You guys want to answer some questions?
Boy, I would love to.
It's mailbag time.
All right. So let's go to the mailbag. We'll pretend like I have a song that plays for the mailbag, because I don't actually have one.
We can make up a song.
I'll do it softly so you can.
No, I'm just going to capture that, and that's what's going to play now on for all
ready?
the mailbags.
1, 2, 3. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Mailbag.
All right.
Okay, you got it.
There it is.
Some internet
There it is.
gold
Print.
here.
Okay. So first question comes from Lee from the Monster Closet podcast. And Lee asks, is there a real controversy attached to the Captain Marvel movie, or is it just politicized spin? So the big controversy here, just to let you know what's going on, is a bunch of people, and this is not sort of unique to Captain Marvel, but this has really been amplified by Captain Marvel, is a bunch of people who have not seen the movie have gone on Rotten Tomatoes and given it really poor user ratings. Now, normally this is saved for Star Wars movies before they get released, but Captain Marvel is now getting it now. In fact, I just saw in my newsfeed today that Rotten Tomatoes is now officially changing the rules for user reviews, that they can't come in until after the movie's officially out to stop this sort of thing from happening.
I don't know why you would be able to make a review of a movie that's not out yet. That doesn't make any damn sense.
So, I mean, I would say the controversy, if this is the controversy, it's the only one I've heard. And the reason why is, some people are going to attribute it to because it's a woman. Some people because they're fans of the real Captain Marvel, which is, of course, the
Shazam.
Zachary Levi one. His name's not Shazam. It's Captain Marvel. Shazam's the wizard that gives Captain Marvel his powers. So, yeah, there's some of that, and there is... It got to the point where Zachary Levi said, "You're not helping Shazam by downvoting Captain Marvel." So when Flynn Rider himself decides he needs to intervene, it's probably gone too far. But I think it's just dumb if you're giving a movie a bad review, even if you don't like the actors, even if you don't like the advertising, even if you think they might be getting a little too politicized with how they're doing it. If you haven't seen the movie, don't give it a bad review because you haven't seen it. You don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I would agree to that.
It depends. So my understanding was that they weren't giving reviews. They were giving like a rating on how much they wanted to see the movie. So if it's an actual product review, then that's stupid. But if the site allows you to say like, "Hey, I'm excited to see this movie," or like, "No, I'm not interested in the movie," then that's different.
Yeah,
But
is
if
different.
Rotten Tomatoes wants to remove that feature, then fine,
that's all up on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, if they're seeing that people are using it to just sort of try to take pot shots at movies that they may... I mean, I guess I can see from the perspective of if you're not interested, you're not interested. And it's nobody's business why you're not interested, if it's a good reason or if it's not a good reason. But
yeah,
then,
I really couldn't care less.
I guess I could see Rotten Tomatoes saying, "You know what, this isn't a helpful feature because if people, it doesn't help what we're trying to do if we're letting a bunch of people sort of pre-bomb a movie by saying, I'm not interested for whatever reason." And, well, that has no bearing on whether or not it's a good movie or not, which is sort of what we're here for. So, anyway, I'm actually looking forward to Captain Marvel. I like the character Captain Marvel. I know most people don't know who the character is because she spent most of the 80s and 90s in a coma because Rogue of the X-Men had permanently taken her powers. But I actually like the character. I liked her as Ms. Marvel. I think she made more sense as Captain Marvel because the Captain Marvel from Marvel Comics nobody knew or liked, and everyone just sort of assumed she was a counterpart to the DC's Captain Marvel, who's the real Captain Marvel. My only issue is that they've come out and they've said multiple times that they want to make her the most powerful character. And in my head, I'm thinking, they've already sort of established in the last movie that Thor is actually pretty strong enough to go toe-to-toe with Thanos. So is this going to be like in Justice League where when Superman shows up and now there's no more drama because Superman is so much stronger than everybody else that he could basically just take care of the problem by himself and everyone else could just go home?
Yeah, no, I heard that. I heard that she's like the savior of the next movie. Like she is... Well,
I mean, and she's in the comic books, she is a powerful character. I want to note,
how powerful?
Objectively less powerful than the real Captain Marvel, which is the DC's Captain Marvel. But she's stronger than Thor and the Hulk, definitively, in the comic books, yes. And she has the ability to go like this. She has this super powerful entity being in her called Binary that she can tap the binary powers and she goes super.
So she just goes 1001100.
That's exactly what she does, and she's an incredibly powerful character in the comic books, and they've bumped her up since she became Captain Marvel proper and not Ms. Marvel anymore. But she really is a legit powerful character, and she features prominently and has for quite a while on a number of the major teams, including the Avengers. And so it's not even just recently, but she's been on the Avengers ever since she woke up from the coma, which was about 20 years ago, give or take. So, I don't know. I like the character.
See it, whatever.
I want to see the movie. Just my worry is that her appearing in Avengers is just going to take away the drama of the act, because if she's really this powerful, then it kind of feels like, so what's the challenge? Why wasn't
she there before?
Yeah, why did nobody think to call her ahead of time? All this stuff has been going on, and now it's like, hey, we knew somebody who could have just shown up and fixed the problem in 2 seconds, but they were gone, so I don't know.
Well, here, I have a theory of what's going to happen in Avengers, and can I say it?
Yeah, it's wild speculation, so it's not a spoiler.
The snap is just going to get completely undone.
Probably.
Like, the thing that annoys me is, when I walked out of Avengers the first time during Infinity War, I was like, why? It's just going to get undone. There's no way they're killing off Black Panther. Let's be real.
Because the next Black Panther movie is already scheduled.
Yeah.
There's a Spider-Man movie
With
coming
Spider-Man.
out 2 months
Yeah,
after the
yes.
Avengers
You don't
movie.
just go and kill Marvel's like newest #1 superhero. Everyone loves Black Panther, okay? When he died, I was like, no, you lost it for me. It's unbelievable. Like, maybe he stayed and they lost like everybody else, but there's no freaking way that he's gonna stay dead. What I think is that, and this is like something that was discussed in the comics. I haven't read them, so this is me retelling what I read on the internet, so keep that in mind. But apparently the Soul Stone talks to Thanos, and he feels guilt. So what I think is going to happen is that Gamora is going to come through the Soul Stone, make him feel guilty as shit. Then he's going to be like probably like less powerful just because he might be depressed or something. I don't know. And then they're going to band together, and then it's all going to get undone.
Yeah, well, I
And
mean,
I
you
think
knew it was
Gamora
going to get undone, but I'm glad they at least did the snap.
I'd like to see how they do it, though.
Yeah, I'm glad they did the snap, because, I mean, the snap is like the ultimate Chekhov's gun, because you can't have all this build-up for what could he do once he has all the stones, and not ever let him get all the stones.
Yep.
So
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
That's a good point.
All right,
That was a
next question.
Meandering answer.
That was a meandering answer. We're not even on the same question anymore, so we're gonna go. So the next question comes from Slappy Jack. He is a Twitch affiliate, so twitch.tv/1 SlappyJack1, and he asks, what was the first game you ever played, and did it send you on the path to be a gamer? And if not, what game did?
Ooh,
So for me, I know exactly what game it is. It's Ms. Pac-Man.
really?
It was Ms. Pac-Man. I played it. It was the cocktail table arcade game, and I played it at a pizza place I used to go to every Friday night.
Huh.
I was probably
That's kinda
4 or
cute.
5, yeah.
Oh, that's
Wow.
cute. And then it just spiraled out of control
Yeah.
from there.
Well, then I
Oh.
got an Atari so I could play
Remember.
Ms. Pac-Man at home, and then I got a Nintendo because that was the cool thing that all the kids were getting, and it just went from there. But that was my first video game, was Ms. Pac-Man, and I loved it.
Chris, what was yours?
Oh boy. So I'm
That's a
not
loaded question
100%
for you.
sure. It most likely, just based on my age, it most likely was Super Mario Brothers, but I don't really remember. Let me put it this way. The first game that left an impression on me that I can distinctly remember playing was Space Invaders, which I played at the library. They had like computers set up. This would have been sometime in the early to mid 90s. They had computers set up that you could like sign up for, and you could play a game on them. And I played Space Invaders, and it blew my mind. I was like, wow, this is so cool. You could shoot the aliens. And I went home and I actually had a little like sketch pad, and I was like drawing like stuff based on Space Invaders. Thought it was
Oh, that's
Cute.
pretty cool.
Um,
Wow.
so I guess, I mean, yeah, that probably influenced me to be a gamer. I know we had one of those arcade throwback game packs that came out in the 90s, and one of the games on there was Galaxian, and that was always a favorite of mine. Very
That's a good
similar
game. Yeah, that's a
style.
good game.
So
All right.
yeah,
So Natalie, you're younger than us by
I
a
am.
certain margin, so I'm
I
actually
am.
really interested in your answer here.
So, growing up, I played a lot of computer games, but mostly like movie-based games, like Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on PC. That was like something that I played. But the game that like I would sit and play hours and replay hours would be Sly Cooper for the PS2. Not Sly Cooper 2 or 3, because I had never played those and I never want to. It's just Sly Cooper 1, and I loved that game.
That's
and
a
then
solid game to have, is that
Sly
one game.
Cooper's the best freaking game. If I would love it to be remastered and me to play it again.
it was
I own it.
for PS3.
Yeah,
and
I
own
know,
it.
I
I
know,
bought it
but
for you.
Yes, I know. But I would like it redone again so that I could play on the PS4, so I don't have to hook up the PS3. But anyway, then I lost gaming. I was like, I don't know, fell out of it. And then I started dating Chris, and Chris is like the king of gamers. And you introduced me as Skyrim, and I was like, what is this? And it was just the most beautiful open world, and I was like, oh my god, what is this? Then I bought myself a gaming PC, and that's when I was like, I'm gonna play Mass Effect, and I played Mass Effect, and that's how I really fell in love with games. It
You
was
have, like,
Mass Effect 1.
You have like 3 different first games depending
what
on
I
what
have-
era of
Yeah.
your
What I-
life you're
No,
in.
what I have is like the beginning, the real, like, you know, like the beginning of the scale, and then Mass Effect is where I am, like, it's catapulted me to who I am now. So like there are little like tiers. Like first, you play, computer games, but then you have that first love, and then you have the love that keeps you going forever.
No, I get what you're saying. Like there are certain. It was a pathway you had to take to sort of get through the doorway, and so you're walking us through all the different steps on the path. I get it.
Yep.
I get it. That's a good solid games all around.
Oh yeah, especially Sly Cooper. Oh. I made a little terrarium for our wedding. For our wedding, I made little tiny terrariums. What it is like a glass fish bowl that you make a little scene into. Like you just like place little characters in the fish bowl, and it looks like a little world. And I made one for Sly Cooper. I made one for Mass Effect. I made one for all of the games that we liked that equaled the number of tables we had at our wedding. So there was like 13. And I made a little Sly Cooper one. I still have it. I love him dearly. And I made a Hollow Knight one for Chris. Chris loves Hollow Knight.
I was sitting at the Mass Effect table.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was
by
the
design.
best table. We had all of the enthusiasts that came to our wedding at the Mass Effect table because it's only fitting.
Mm-hmm. That was a good wedding.
It was a great time.
I like that your ceremony was short. I've not stressed that enough. I don't think I really appreciate that.
No, I hate a long ceremony. It was done in a flash. Like literally, you didn't even have time to sit back down. It was over. Boom, done.
It's like if you all can just, just go. We're done.
Yeah.
We needed to get to the cocktail hour.
We did need to get to cocktail hour. I had some sea breezes and they were delicious.
I did not like the sea breeze.
No.
Really?
I will usually finish a drink, like no matter what. But I got a sea breeze and I took a couple sips and I was like, you know what? This is my wedding. I don't have to drink this. And the waitress came over and was like, can I get you anything? I was like, yeah, can you take this away and just get me? I probably got like an amaretto sour or something. Yeah, I was not a fan.
No kidding.
It was a little too tart for me.
See, I like it a little bit tart. That's my day drinking drink. When I'm drinking during the day, but I don't want to feel like I'm drinking during the day, I'll get a sea breeze.
You like to punish yourself instead with a sea breeze?
I like the sea breeze. It's refreshing, and there's a lot of fruit juice in it, so it's really good for me. That's how I've decided to sell that.
An old person saying V8 juice, like OG, like tomato.
I like V8 juice. It's really good.
Tomato juice is not that bad.
Take that with your like anti-cholesterol pills. Why don't you?
Wow.
And my fiber. Okay.
Yeah. What's the next question?
Next question comes to us from Brendan of the Almost Better Than Silence podcast, and he asks, "Yeah, a lot of our good podcast friends from the Loosely Connected Network have wrote in, and so Brendan asks, oh, you're gonna like this one, you guys. This is gonna be a fun one. If there are half elves and half orcs, why aren't there half dwarves? Can other races breed with each other besides humans? Are there elf and orc offspring? What about a dwarf and a tiefling? Are humans the Asari of the fantasy worlds? Is it interracial or bestiality or interbestial?"
I'm sorry. What the?
That is a great question. I have never thought of this before.
So he raises a valid point: is that when you're dealing with the fantasy world, there's usually a lot of half human, half something else. Every time in fantasy where I've seen it, it has always been a human father and a other mother.
Because humans are writing the book, so you're going to make something half human to make it half relatable.
That's probably the real reason, but yeah. So again, I'm thinking, well, it's because they're basically saying that these dudes are just going to put it in anything.
So I guess I have this leads me back to Lord of the Rings, because that's the kind of the codifier of the fantasy races, if you really think about it. Why weren't there half? Well, there weren't really half elves, I guess. I mean,
yeah, but I've seen half elves in other fantasy.
I'm just trying to bring it back to the roots to think of, like, through the lens of the Lord of the Rings, which is sort of the proto-fantasy. Why wouldn't there be half-breeds of those races from the Lord of the Rings, which would then trickle down to other fantasy? Because humans and elves could interbreed in the Lord of the Rings, like Arwen and Aragorn. But the whole problem there was that the elves were immortal and the humans were not.
Are they immortal, or do they just live really, really long?
They are immortal,
okay.
But they can give up their immortality somehow. I'm not clear on. Somebody who's a Tolkien aficionado could probably explain that. They can elect to be mortal somehow.
All right, I'm just moving on to the next question. All right, next question comes from Nick of the Gamers Without Borders podcast, which is also a podcast I'm on, and he asks, "Where have you been? I've missed you." Well,
been right here, buddy.
Nick,
I have no answer.
Waiting on you.
Yeah,
because I don't think I've ever done a podcast with you.
Yes, you have.
Well, we've done podcasts together that were other people's podcasts. This is the first time I think you've been on my podcast.
Yes.
But so where have I been? Well, Nick, we just recorded together, like not that long ago. That episode went up last week, 2 weeks ago. So that's a fairly recent episode. Where's Hero Talk been? I don't know, man. I've been busy, just busy. I wouldn't even be doing this now if I didn't promise somebody a new Hero Talk is going to be up in February. I really need to do these more often because the problem is I will always find an excuse to not do one. And I like doing it. It's one of the few hobbies I actually do and I enjoy. So I really ought to make a point to do it. But anyway, yeah, that's where I've been. So next question comes from Enthusiast's own Axalon. And he asks, we're going to revisit this again. Why is Shazam, a.k.a. the original Captain Marvel, clearly the better character over Captain Marvel? Because he's the original, and he's objectively more powerful than Marvel's Captain Marvel.
And he says Shazam, which is awesome.
And he says Shazam, and a bolt of lightning comes out of the sky and transforms him into Captain Marvel. That's just freaking cool.
And he was in Mortal Kombat versus DC Universe, which was the first time that I encountered that character.
He was. He absolutely was. And
he was cool in that game.
I've seen some of the previews that show, like, because Billy Batson's the character's name of the little boy, because he's just a little boy who says it and becomes Captain Marvel, Earth's mightiest mortal. And there's this one scene where he's, like, jumping off a roof, and as he's falling, he says Shazam, and of course, lightning hits him, turns into Captain Marvel, and just flies away. Speed of Mercury. So anyway, but why? Because he's the original. That's what I'm going to go with. So next we have from Anthony Rossi of the Video Game Crosstalk podcast, and he asks, what kind of razor do you shave with?
Ooh, I use Harry's razor.
Harry's?
Yeah, you know that company, Harry's?
Yeah, I know.
Find it. Yeah, I use that.
Huh.
I don't like female razors. They are too costly.
They do cost more for the exact same razor.
They cost way more money. It doesn't make any damn sense. Just give me a Harry's razor. Give me a Dollar Shave Club. I don't care. I haven't used that, though.
I have not tried Dollar Shave Club. I've tried a couple of different brands, but I always just keep coming back to Gillette. I currently use a Pro Glide with, I think it's called the Pro Glide Power. The one that vibrates. I know that seems like it's a stupid feature, but it actually makes it a lot more comfortable to shave. It sounds like the dumbest thing ever when you hear about it. Like, why do I want my razor to vibrate? But then it makes it a lot more comfortable, so that's what I shave with. And I buy in bulk, and I buy from BJ's, and I buy always with a coupon, and they have coupons a lot more often than I need razors. So as long as you're smart about it, I think I pay less for my razors than the comparable razor I would get from Dollar Shave Club.
Interesting.
Wow. Well, I don't actually use a razor to shave. I do this. I have
little Mr. Peanut.
A set of clippers, the wall peanut clippers that I got from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And all I do is I just trim it really, really short. I just use no guard, and I just trim it down as short as it goes. And that way I have a perpetual stubble.
Okay.
Because my beard doesn't grow in all the way anyway, so who cares?
For your wedding, you did get a single razor shave.
I did get a hot
Did you go to like an actual place to do that?
Yeah, our old church pastor became a barber. Shout out P. Sean. And he did a bang up job. You look great. Those mutton chops were on fleek.
Yep, he shaped up my mutton chops. He did a hot shave, did the whole towel and everything. It was something. I felt very uncomfortable the whole time. Like,
why?
I'm very squeamish about throat slitting, and I know that he wasn't going to cut my throat. But like the entire time that there was like a sharp object near my throat, it was like, it made me feel not great. So objectively, it was a pleasant experience, but I wouldn't do it again because I don't like being shaved like that.
See, I've only had that happen maybe a handful of times where I've gone to a place that actually does that sort of thing because there just aren't that many old-timey barbershops around anywhere anymore. So to find somebody who does it is rare. I really enjoyed it. It was kind of nice to just sit back and relax and be like, all right, somebody else could worry about shaving me right now. I'm just going to...
They do that to me. We don't really have that as ladies.
No, they don't.
We should. I would like a nice hot leg shave. Oh,
what are you talking about? Don't they have like spas for that?
They don't shave you, they wax you, which is 110% different. For my wedding,
you mean that
I got a honeymoon wax, and I also got an armpit wax. You know what it's like to get your armpit wax?
If you went to a spa and you asked them to shave your legs, they wouldn't do it?
No, Christopher, what the heck? No. That does not exist.
So you mean to tell me that you can go in and they'll wax your genital area, but they won't shave your legs?
Nope.
And now we're talking about genitals.
You can wax your legs. They will wax your legs, but they will not shave your legs.
There's something I don't understand about that.
But I would pay good money to have like a nice like foot and leg like massage and then shave. Like if you were to do like the hot razor shave, you know, the towel, the warmth, maybe a little massage, and then they shave you, I'd pay good money for that. Just like as a treat. But no, they don't. That doesn't exist. Chris, it is cute that you actually think someone would care that much.
I don't know why that seems like that would be a good service to offer.
It seems like if there was money to be made there, somebody would be doing it already.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's true.
But you can get it waxed. I mean, technically, to be honest, waxing is much more cost effective in the long run. I mean, my armpits, when they got waxed, they didn't grow in for a month.
I mean, yeah, as a hair removal solution.
Yeah.
Oh, for
yeah.
like a full month before anything started growing?
Yeah, like, you know, I've had other waxes.
We don't need details. Thank you.
Yeah, but they don't grow in. They don't grow in for months. And when they do grow in, the hair is so thin and, like, patchy that if you do it a couple times, your hair will not grow.
Wait, so could I do that with, like, my face?
Yes. I don't know why men don't. Like, it won't grow after. And if you
men don't, because they need their facial hair. Because men are...
Well, yeah, like, I don't want to have a beard, but I want to know I could have a beard.
Another thing is that the cool thing about waxing is you don't get razor burn and you don't get ingrown hairs. So if you want your face waxed, you should do it. Grow it out just a little bit, you know, just so that there's something to, you know, hold on to. I'm going to tell you it hurts, but it won't grow in for a month. So if you want to do it before a special event where you're going to have photos and things like that, like a wedding would be a great time. Get it done like the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just in case. Or you renew your vows. I don't know, someone else's wedding. Who
there you
cares?
go.
I'm not getting my face waxed for somebody else's wedding, although I am thinking about my back for swimsuit season.
Oh, yeah, that too. It won't grow back for a whole month. You could do it. What I do is for the summertime, I'll get one in June, and then if I really need it, get one again at the end of, like, at the beginning of middle of August.
Speaking of waxing, did you know that the scenes in the 40-Year-Old Virgin where they waxed Steve Carell, those were his real reactions?
Yep.
Yeah, so, he was really getting waxed that time.
There's that. Just circle back to the whole movies thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, we made it relevant. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to Disney in December, so might be it.
Yeah, no, do it. Do it. You know what you should do is just in case something bad happens, do it like, not bad happens, but if you get like red, sometimes it goes away like after like a day. It should go away that day. But if it doesn't, do it like 5 days before your trip.
If you have a red patch that lasts for more than 4 hours.
Stop.
So it might be a smart idea to like give it a week before the trip so that I'm not like red or bleeding or anything. Do you bleed? I've seen that in movies, but like I don't think you would. Do you?
Yeah, because your hair is getting ripped out. Sometimes but like not like bleeding. Like it's, you know, like when you get a little tiny nick when you're shaving. It's just a little tiny nick.
Okay.
It's kind of like that. But
so you don't want to do it like immediately before, but like give it some time for that to heal, which, you know, happens in less than a day.
Yeah. So like 5 days.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I will do that and record it live and put it on the podcast.
Yo, that'd be hilarious.
That would be.
Yeah.
That'd be
that's
interesting.
A good idea.
Yeah, I think that's what my listeners really want. They want their movie news, they want their pop culture news, and they want to hear me getting my back waxed.
Yeah.
All right, that question did an interesting turn. So that was all the questions, which was not bad considering that, you know, this was just a thrown together thing. So I guess we can close. I don't really have anything else to talk about.
I thought we were going to cover the subject of BS, like bullshit.
Oh,
I guess we did just bullshit for the entire like hour. So
we did.
We took a journey through our pop cultural experience.
I got to be honest with you. This is one of the better podcasts I've ever recorded. I've been putting in all kinds of effort for no good reason.
Sorry.
Yeah. Right.
All right. Yay, this was fun.
All right. So, hey, thanks for coming on, Chris and Natalie. I know you were like a last-minute addition, and I appreciate it because you really brought your A game, and I appreciate that.
Follow me on all social media
as
Spooky X Raccoon.
Spooky X Raccoon on all social media. And Chris, do you want to plug yourself, or do you care?
I'm at Calvinocious on Twitter, Steam, all the things that there could be, like PSN and no, I'm not on Xbox. I'm Cowboy Curtis 88, but that's whatever. I don't really use my Xbox that much. So.
Yeah, but if you ever need to find
friends on
out
Xbox.
anything,
You didn't tell me you had an Xbox.
Twitter, whatever.
I've had an Xbox.
Oh,
well,
for
I
Christmas.
just got an Xbox
share the story, Chris. It's a good one.
Oh my goodness, that is a good story.
You might as well share it. We'll just postpone the end of the podcast till you share.
So my sister we did our Christmas gifts in reverse age order. So we got them the youngest to the oldest. So you would receive your gift from the youngest person all the way up So my sister got me Titanfall 2. She had found it at Five Below, and I opened it up, and I'm like, oh, Titanfall 2, I've heard this game is really good, but I don't have an Xbox One, so it was kind of like awkward. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll figure it out. I'll probably get an Xbox
And she was
One at
like,
some
oh
point
no,
anyway.
I thought you did.
Like, oh no, I
I'm
thought
so
you had
sorry.
that. And I was like, well, I was going to get one on Black Friday, but I decided not to, and, so here we are. We proceeded with the gift giving, and then
An hour
Bill,
later.
who's the oldest, after many more gifts, Bill hands me a box, and I open it up, and inside is an Xbox One, and my sister's just like, gotcha. so they had coordinated this to give me a game for a system I didn't have, just so that when I got the Xbox One, it would be a
It was
sweet
very
plot
cute.
twist. And
It
it
was
was
very
interesting.
cute.
So what's your Xbox name?
Cowboy Curtis 88.
Oh, but Curtis, yeah,
Yes.
you are not
Yeah.
friends with me on Xbox, by the way. I just want to point this out.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, what the crap, man?
I don't know. I don't add people on things. Usually I sit there and I wait for people to add me, and if they don't, then I assume they don't want to be my friend. So
Wow, Christopher,
I have
way to live
I
your
have
life.
I have a complex. I'm very insecure about these things.
All right. Well, I just sent you a friend request. You better respond.
I will. I was playing Halo Reach at one point, so as soon as I go back to that, I will.
Yeah, it was last night.
Your Xbox
Fine.
avatar is like the tiny little Doom guy.
Little Doom guy.
Well, that's my my profile icon. My little the person.
Well, yeah,
the-
your I guess avatar is the wrong thing because they actually have avatars in Xbox,
Yeah.
but it's your profile pic.
My profile pic is the Doom guy. My avatar is dressed up like Booker from BioShock Infinite.
I
don't
don't
know if
is
it's
it
Mass Effect
really?
Infinite. I don't know where that.
I
came
haven't
did you know
actually
that they're
done
making
an
a
avatar.
fourth Bioshock?
Wait, what? Wait,
Yep,
whoa, whoa,
it's
whoa,
been
whoa, whoa!
confirmed.
You can't
Whoa.
just drop that at the end of the
That's-
podcast.
I mean,
Sorry.
it's rumored.
Is
No, it's been confirmed.
are you
Who?
serious? Okay, hang on. To the
Google
Google.
it. To the Google machine.
What is it? A new BioShock?
I don't
Bioshock 4.
think that it has been actually confirmed.
All right, I'm gonna...
I think you're reading too much into this.
Be quiet. Let me dream.
I mean, Ken Levine is not making any more Bioshocks. That's for sure. So if there is a new Bioshock, then it's not going to be the same team behind it.
I'm looking it up too now. Why not? Bioshock. Yep, April 13th, 2018, so about a year ago. Bioshock 4 in development at 2K from Secret Studio, rumors suggest.
Oh,
On
but
Friday,
that's an
April
article from
13th,
like
2018.
last year. That's not.
Yeah, that's a rumor.
That's a rumor.
No, it's confirmed.
It says rumor.
Let it be
Literally, rumor is
confirmed.
in the title of the article.
Dear God, please, please let it be real.
Oh wow, that was a heck of a rabbit hole to take us down.
Oh man,
Sorry,
I
guys.
need this to be real.
New Bioshock to star Big Daddies and Elizabeth. A new Bioshock will be coming out in 2020, according to a reliable game analyst. But will it star Elizabeth and the Big Daddies? As reported by Unilad, Michael Patchter of Weedbush Securities. Why did I have a hard time with that?
Wow,
Reckons we could be getting a brand new Bioshock in 2020.
that's a lot of reckoning
Good.
and sources and.
Patcher's prediction could be
Possible.
accurately or entirely wrong.
That's how predictions
There
work.
was
Well.
the industry analyst who correctly predicted Call of Duty Black Ops 4 would join the Battle Royale bandwagon.
Oh well, now I'm not excited.
Oh, I don't like battle royales.
I
but that's another
am
thing.
not into battle royales at all. I think it is my least favorite genre that's out right now, and I know some people like it, and I'm not going to knock it. If you like that kind of game, play it. This is your time, buddy. This
It's
is
a
your
younger
time.
man's game, that's
But-
for sure.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure on what Fortnite is.
Oh, who gives
Well,
a
it's not what
Not
it was.
12.
Fortnite was supposed to be a sort of a co-op survival horror zombie building game, but they released the battle royale mode, which became massively popular.
populator? Gonna be
What?
populator.
It became massively popular. I just did that. It became massively popular.
Populated.
It's the third time's the charm. And so far, the original Fortnite, which is now called Fortnite Save the World, exists, but it's in like an early access state.
Huh.
So the free-to-play version has not come out yet, which it was always advertised as a free-to-play game. So I'm a little bit disappointed because the game itself looked pretty cool.
I know there's a lot of dancing in Fortnite.
There is a lot of dancing.
Flossing.
Yeah.
Well,
All right there. So that's been Hero Talk. Thank you guys.
Thank you,
It has
Greg.
been an interesting
It's a pleasure.
rabbit hole. If you want to follow me, you can check me out on Twitter at Judge Greg is Law. I'm also on Xbox, Judge Greg is Law. I'm on PSN, just Judge Greg. So that's Judge Greg, not just Judge Greg. But anyway, you can also follow the Enthusiacs at Enthusiacs. You can go to enthusiacs.com to check out our content whenever we decide to put any up. But if you do want to check out some updated content daily, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/enthusiacs. That gets updated daily. Axalon is just a machine. He is a machine. He puts out videos every day.
Every day.
Every day. Thank
Literally
you.
every day.
Literally
Sometimes
every day.
multiple per day.
Literally.
Literally.
Listen,
Literally every day.
Literally every day.
All right. And with that, we are out. Thank you, everybody, and catch you next time.